Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show that covers all things marketing. The GSMC Marketing News Podcast gives you the latest marketing news, from what major businesses have planned for the coming year to the newest trends in advertising, from podcasts, digital and streaming, to the old standbys of radio, television, and billboards. Whether you're a marketing agent or a business trying to expand your brand, you've come to the right place. The GSMC Marketing News Podcast starts now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you had a wonderful weekend, and let's get right into today's podcast. Before we begin, I want to encourage everyone to please subscribe to our podcast. We post new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I absolutely love recording these, so it would really make my entire day, make my entire year, if you write a review down below letting me know your thoughts. Today's episode is all about event marketing. Event marketing can become a big part of your marketing plan for the year, and if you're not already including events, I would ask you why, because they really are so great for your company, so great for engaging with your audience, and it's a great way to take yourself out of the digital world for a moment and actually interact with people in your community and network with other professionals. So it's definitely a great marketing tool, but also a great networking and engagement building tool. So we are going to talk about all that and more on today's episode. Our first story of today is that Sprite Ginger is debuting a streetwear line. This will be part of a wide-ranging marketing push for their new flavor of pop, which is Sprite with a ginger twist. Sprite is launching this new flavor called Sprite Ginger that is being supported with a 360-degree marketing strategy, including related streetwear collection that will be dubbed Ginger Collection. Streetwear designer Jeff Staple has led the design team and crowdsourced a newcomer designer from his Instagram followers to add to the team. The collection, which includes t-shirts, hoodies, skateboards, and additional accessories, debuted last week at the Extra Butter NYC store. The Coca-Cola brand dropped hints on social media and outdoor ads to build excitement around the drink and clothing line. This campaign is part of the wide marketing stretch to not only debut the product and also show that Coca-Cola will be expanding their reach into a streetwear line. Perhaps Sprite will just be the first of many Coke products that go into the streetwear line, or perhaps we'll be seeing more and more that come out with the skateboard, t-shirts, and hoodies. It's definitely a great way. We always talk on this podcast about marketing and how merchandise can become a really big part of your company and of your marketing. Even if you make something that you're like, this doesn't have anything to do with clothing, it doesn't have anything to do with merchandise, there is always a way to interconnect the two, because merchandise is a really great way to make sure that someone is taking the brand home with them, if that makes sense. If they have a t-shirt, then that t-shirt is going to sit in their closet and remind them of your brand and remind them of your product and how much they liked your product enough to buy a freaking shirt. So it's definitely a really great way to market your items, and I think Coke definitely recognizes this, as Coca-Cola t-shirts have been being sold for years. After a rough fourth quarter, Trivago is testing out a new marketing strategy. In the fourth quarter, Trivago's net income fell 7.8% to $3.38 million, but grew 38.7% to $18.76 million for the full year. So after this rough quarter, CEO Alex Heffer has encapsulated how the views of the company are currently. Just to summarize, the times are rough. We do have a clear plan, and we are focused on what we can control. Heffer said that Trivago is testing a number of new revenue streams, including sponsored listings, and intends to increase integration of alternate accommodations, although the later move wouldn't have material impact on Trivago's financial for several years. So this is just a really interesting story, because obviously Trivago is a brand that we all know, we all trust, but they have some big competition coming up right now. They have Airbnb taking over the internet and taking over hotels and your traveling needs. I don't know many people my age, 23, who are still using an app like Trivago. That's definitely something that is getting phased out as more and more people lean towards Airbnb. However, they don't want to just hang up their hat. Is Netflix just going to hang up their hat when Disney Plus beats them? No, it's time to fight back. And I think that's what Alex Heffer is saying, is that if something is broken with their actual product, they are going to find a way to fix it, make it better, and then fight to be the top again. So I'm very excited to see how Trivago's new marketing campaigns will prove that they are the better choice, the more reliable choice, or whatever their new marketing strategy may be, to see how they are planning to combat Airbnb's really great and really successful quarters that they have been having. Our third story up today is that Starbucks has named a new CMO. They have named Brady Brewer. So Starbucks CEO Kevin Johnson announced that Brady Brewer has been promoted to the role of Chief Marketing Officer. He previously led the company's digital customer experience for several years before this promotion. Brewer will now report directly to the company's COO, Roz Brewer. I am very unaware if Brady Brewer and Roz Brewer are related. I would just like to point out the obvious, that it's very funny that their last name is Brewer and they're very high up in Starbucks. I'm sorry. I know it was an obvious joke. I know it was an easy joke, but I had to make it. Come on, guys. I love a good pun. The Brewers are now running Starbucks' marketing. I'm really excited to see what is going to be happening next with Starbucks marketing, considering they have always been a company that I have turned to for my marketing, and I know a lot of other companies take inspiration from as well. So Brady Brewer definitely has very big shoes to fill, but the Starbucks marketing team is so stacked to begin with, and they have such a great team that I do believe that they will continue to push amazing marketing content all the time, and I do not see that changing anytime soon. Okay, everyone, we're going to go ahead and take a short break from the podcast, but when we come back, we are going to get into some stats and facts about event marketing. So stay tuned, because you are listening to the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie, and I'll be right back.
Golden State Media Concepts Technology Podcast covers everything tech. The hottest mobile phones, tablets, games. We review it, rate it, test it. Whether you're Microsoft or Apple, Android or iPhone, we'll give it to you black and white. The Golden State Media Concepts Technology Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie, and I am so excited about today's episode. We are talking about event marketing. So event marketing can be a really great tool for your company to, 1, promote yourself if you're a new business, 2, to engage with your audience, 3, to network with other companies, and 4, just to have some fun and be a little creative. Events, if you're planning them, if you're attending them, it's a great opportunity to show new products, old products, and promote your brand in a fun and creative way that isn't digital. There's a digital aspect of it, believe me. We're going to talk about that. But right now in marketing, everything is so digital that it's really nice that event marketing has sort of stood the test of time and is hanging in there, and we all still use it as a reliable source of marketing. But let's talk about some stats and facts about event marketing. 31% of marketers believe that event marketing is the single most effective marketing channel. 80% of businesses that are overperforming in regards to their company goals will increase their live event budget next year. 79% of U.S. marketers generate sales using event marketing. 95% of marketers agree that live events provide attendees with valuable opportunities to form in-person connections in an increasingly digital world. 65% of attendees said live events helped them have a better understanding of a product or service. 40% of event marketers believe in email marketing is the most effective channel for promoting an event. 86% of event marketers believe that technology can have a major positive impact on the success of their event. And about 34% of event attendees said that they would make a post about an experience on their social media pages. So very similar to what I was saying earlier, that although this is a really great way to sort of take yourself out of the digital world and be a little bit more creative and engaging with your audience, this is a really great way to also engage with them online. I know I said it wasn't anything to do with digital and it was a way to get away from digital, but let's face it, we're not getting away from digital, not anytime soon. If you're hosting an event, you of course need a digital element to accompany the event. Let's talk about, in relation to these stats and facts, what would make a good event. If 34% of event attendees are posting about an event experience, then you need to talk about it with them. If you see someone tag you in a post, go like the post, go comment on the post, tag them back. Start building a relationship with your customers that are clearly trying to reach out and build a relationship with you. This is also a really great opportunity to always ensure that at your events, everything has your brand on it. So if someone takes a photo and maybe doesn't tag you in it directly, your logo is still in the back. Your colors and your branding are still in the back of someone's photo. So they are still giving you that recognition without having to actually tag you. So really make sure that when you're at events, you're being creative about how you use your branding, but also, I was once working an event and my boss said I wanted to look like our logo threw up in here. And we did it. We plastered the walls with our logo. We were working for a radio station, so we were the only sponsor of that event. And we made it look like the radio. And we made it look like the logo had thrown up in there. It was everywhere you looked. There was not one photo that was taken that night that did not have the radio station logo in the background. So I'm not saying you have to go all the way up to making sure that your logo is everywhere, but definitely make sure that you are including it and that it is present in almost every direction where someone could be taking a photo of your booth. Since 65% of attendees said live events helped them have a better understanding of a product or a service, it's a great idea and it's in your best interest to bring your product or your service. A really great example I've seen of this is when you're selling a vacuum, and so at these events they often bring like a little piece of carpet, they'll pour dirt on the carpet, and then they'll run the vacuum over it. Now, unfortunately, there is going to be some poor brand ambassador who has to sit there all day pouring the dirt and then vacuuming up the dirt. But hey, that's why you pay them. That's why they only work part-time. They can handle it. So it's definitely a great idea to always bring your product with you. Just having your brand there and just being present there does mean a lot, but it doesn't mean anything if you actually don't have something to show people. So 79% of U.S. marketers generate sales using event marketing. What does that mean, and how can you actually use that stat? Well, it means that you can use event marketing to generate your sales either at the event or after the event, which is why promoting yourself after the event is just as important as promoting yourself before the event. Because maybe someone saw your vacuum there and they said, oh, when my vacuum breaks, I'll have to remember them. And if you take them in a post a week after, a day after, they're going to remember how great your vacuum was. But you can also generate sales at the actual event. This is a really great reason to also bring copies of your product. Maybe if you're selling vacuums, you don't bring 100 vacuums because your poor brand ambassador's backs. I can't even imagine having to carry 100 vacuums around a showroom. But bring 20. For sure, even if they have to just leave them in the car or in the truck, if you have the products there for people to purchase, people are going to purchase them there. This also definitely comes within reason. If you are selling vacuums, this could be debatable if you should bring them. But if you're selling shirts, if you're a t-shirt business, bring your t-shirts. And guys, and you're going to say, I've heard her say this before, I think you know where I'm going here. If you have merchandise, bring your merchandise. Maybe you're not able to bring your actual product to sell, but sell your merchandise. If you can't bring all your vacuums, bring t-shirts that say, life sucks, but so do our vacuums, or something like that, because then people can bring something home. You can make some money off of it, and they can bring something home to remember your brand later on. Okay, everyone, we're going to go ahead and take a short break from the podcast, but when we come back, we are going to be talking about how you can achieve a perfect event. All right, everyone, so stay tuned. You are listening to the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jakewish, and I'll be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jakewish, and today's episode is very, very close to my heart. We are talking about event marketing. The reason it is so close to my heart is because that is actually how I got started in the marketing world. I used to be on a Canadian television show where we had to go to a lot of different events to promote the show, and that's when I started sort of falling in love with that world. And after that, once the show was canceled and finished, I then moved to a radio station where I was their brand ambassador. I would attend events, market the events while I was there, represent the station, and I sort of started building my marketing career from there. Obviously, I've worked in a lot of different areas, but I would definitely say that events would be one of my favorites for sure, which is why I think I can give you the top 5 ways how you can achieve a perfect event using marketing. So number 1, plan early. And I'm not just talking about the event. All of this stuff is for both the marketing for the event and the actual event. So number 1, plan early. If you want to host a big Christmas, New Year's, holiday event for your company, say you sell Christmas trees and you know that there's going to be one big event that gets rid of all your trees, then you need to plan that at least a year in advance. If you're planning for your entire stock to be out on one event, plan that a year in advance. But say you're not selling Christmas trees, say you're selling sweaters, and you know you're going to have a holiday collection come out, so you're going to have a holiday party to promote them. Plan that a year in advance from your last holiday party. This will give you plenty of opportunity to, 1, get the event actually ready, and 2, pay attention to marketing trends that are occurring throughout the year so that you know what type of marketing you want to have at the event. Do you want a professional photographer? Do you want a professional social media person to come in and document it all? These are decisions you're going to have to make a year in advance so that you can be prepared. Number 2, set goals and objectives. This is very similar to plan early, or it at least should be included in your plan. What are you trying to achieve, and what goals are you trying to accomplish with this event? If you're trying to promote a new line of sweaters, then all of your marketing should be targeted towards the new sweaters. There shouldn't be any mention of the old sweaters or products that won't be released at the party or anything like that. If your goal is to sell the new sweaters, then make your goal to sell the new sweaters. Make sure your marketing reflects that, make sure the event reflects that, and make sure the sweaters are at the event. Setting goals and objectives can be a very clear way to make sure that the event and the money going towards the event is very, very helpful and very, very useful to your team and to yourself. Number 3, what's the event vision? So this can go in a few different ways. I'm talking about the theme of your event, but I'm also talking about the vision of your event. If you're throwing a holiday party, that is your theme. But the vision of your event might be, okay, we want it to be a ballroom setting, we want it to be black tie, we want it to be catered. You need to know all of that information ahead of time so that you can plan early and you can make it a part of your goals and objectives. So right now, if you're thinking of an event that you want to throw this year or maybe early next year, I want you to write down what your event vision would be. A really great way to put this into words is to create a vision board for that event. Put up images of what you want the event to feel like, what you want the experience to look like, ideas from other events in the world. Really get creative and create a vision or a mood board that reflects what you want out of this event. Number 4, the timeline. I've talked about creating a timeline a lot on this podcast because they're so incredibly effective and useful and can just really help organize an entire team. Now, a timeline shouldn't just be December 31st we start planning and December 25th is when the party is. So that was a full calendar year, guys. I know I didn't put the years in there, but I figured maybe you guys are listening to this podcast in like 2022, so I didn't want to be throwing numbers out there that might not be relatable in a couple of years. But make sure that you have specific dates within that timeline. So if you're starting to plan on December 3rd, if you're starting to plan on December 31st, what are you planning on December 31st? What goals and objectives need to be done on December 31st? And then move to the next week. What are you planning on that week? What goals and objectives need to be hit on that week? Who will be working on it in your team? Is this the time that you're hiring a new team member? Is this the time you're doing interviews for that new team member? All of this stuff and more should be included in that timeline. Now, timelines can be flexible, but they shouldn't be changeable, if that makes sense. Things can be moved, I always say, around a week to 2 weeks in advance of the due date. Maybe you thought you would have a new assistant by February, and you don't, so you need to move that a little bit so that you have time to interview people and find the right person for the job. There's nothing wrong with having to move things around 2 weeks in advance, but if you shift it by a month or by 2 months or an entire year, your project and your event are going to go down the drain. Number 5, this is going to seem a little obvious, so please forgive me, but create a budget. This is something that should not be flexible and should not be changed. Your budget for every event should stick to the same amount of money. You need to allocate which parts will be going towards your marketing budget so that you can plan ahead early. If you have X amount that you need to use to hire the photographer for the marketing, for the social media ads you want to run, all of that needs to be included in your budget. Don't just say, well, $500 is going towards marketing. No. You need to write down $100 is going towards a photographer, $50 towards running ads, $5 a day for each ad. These are the types of numbers you have to think about and consider when creating your marketing budget for an event. All right, so I'm just going to repeat those for you guys one more time. Plan early. Set goals and objectives. Create an event vision board. Plan out your timeline and create a budget. If you use those 5 steps, you're for sure going to be in a great place to host or attend an amazing event that you're going to be able to profit from and generate successful buzz about your company. Okay, everyone, we're going to go ahead and take a short break from the podcast, but when we come back, I am going to give you 5 more tips on how you can attend a successful event that you're not planning and how you can still achieve amazing benefits from those events. So stay tuned because you are listening to the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jaquish, and I'll be right back.
Are you a business owner? Someone interested in the latest news that might affect your business? Then check out the GSMC Business News Podcast, a show dedicated to keeping you up to date on all things concerning business, technology, and the stock market. Get a head start on the day as we keep you updated on the latest goings-on Wall Street, money, jobs, and technology. The GSMC Business News Podcast has you covered.
Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. Today's episode is all about event marketing, how to do it, why to do it, and how to do it successfully. Before the break, I walked you through the top 5 ways you can plan a successful event for your company. And now that we are back from our break, I am going to give you the top 5 ways you can attend an event successfully and still reach those marketing objectives that you set out for yourself, even if it's not your own event. Number 1, understand your resources. At an event that you're not planning, it can be very hard to tell which resources you will have ahead of the time. So what you should first do is take stock of everything you have in-house. How many people will be working the event? How much equipment will you be bringing to the event? How much merchandise will you be bringing to the event? And how much will you be spending on transportation fees and also food fees for the event? Please pay your coworkers at events. Please pay your workers at events. Don't just let them snack on granola bars. Give them some money to go buy a slice of pizza somewhere. I used to work events and we'd have 6-hour shifts where we'd have to stand. There'd be no place to sit. They did not bring us any food until the last day. They brought us granola bars. And let me tell you something. I hate granola bars. I just think they're kind of gross. But maybe your workers do like granola bars. All I'm saying is plan for those little things. Another way that you can understand your resources is by calling ahead to the event manager and asking, what size will your space be? How much time will you be at the space for? What is the air conditioning situation? Do other booths have music playing? Are those booths beside us? What are other people bringing? This way you can better understand and better estimate what you need to bring to the event. Number 7, ahead of the event, during the event, and after the event, make sure that on all social media sites you are promoting the sponsors and the people who ran the event. They are going to be the main ones using all the social media, taking up all that airspace with the hashtag. So if you want to be included in the social media coverage from that event, make sure you are tagging, hashtagging, and sharing all of the content they're creating. It can actually be a really great way to get some free content by just sharing what they've already posted that day. It can be just a really smooth and easy way to connect with the sponsors and with the promoters. Number 3, technology is your best friend. When you are going to someone else's event, you will have to bring and supply your own technology. And what I mean by that is speakers for your music. Make sure all of your street teamers or brand ambassadors who are going to the event, make sure they're equipped with the proper iPhone usage if you want them to be taking photos on Instagram. Technology is going to become your best friend at events because it can be how you control the engagement level. If you're the only booth that doesn't have music playing, maybe people aren't going to want to go to you. But if every booth has blaringly loud music and you're just another noise in a sea of noises, then people aren't probably going to care. This is why you need to assess the situation and plan ahead of what types of technology you're going to be bringing. The next one is branding. Branding is so incredibly important when you're going to an event and also when you're hosting an event, which is why it should be the number 1 on all of these lists, guys. Branding is so incredibly important because if someone takes a photo at your event, you're going to want your branding in the background. I talked about this a little bit already with stats and facts, but if you're able to bring your banners, posters, make sure everyone who's working the event is wearing a t-shirt with your logo on it. If you have hats, make them wear hats. Make sure you have tablecloths, pens, napkins. I once worked an event where we had cookies with our logo on it. No matter what you're bringing to the event, even if it's a speaker, even if it's a phone, if you're able to, slap a logo on it, slap your branding on it, because this way it might seem excessive. It might seem like you're overdoing it. You're not. Believe me, you are not overdoing it. If it seems like you're going 100%, when one person takes a photo, you're only going to be in 2% of that photo. So you better make sure that you're going above and beyond so that every photo that gets taken at that event has a little bit of you in the background. So the ways you can do that are by, again, ensuring that you have those banners and posters and all those basic materials. Before anyone goes out for an event, have a list that plans out what materials they should bring, what materials they have in the car. Because the car, if your logo's on the car, that can be another really great tool for branding. Make sure they park it right outside of the event center so that when people are walking in, they know that your radio station, your vacuum company, your wedding dress fitting, they're all there. The next one is create a crisis management plan. So the crisis management plan is something that you should have for your own event, but it's going to be in that timeline that we talked about and in your plan. But the crisis management plan for your event that you're attending is going to be slightly different because you're not going to be able to anticipate every crisis that might happen. You're going to be able to anticipate some of them based on events that you've done in the past, experience that you have, and from talking ahead of time to the event manager about who's coming, who's not coming, how many people are attending, what food is there people with water products. There's so much you can anticipate, but there's a lot that you can't either. And especially if you're not going to be there and you're sending out brand ambassadors who are, say, 18, 19 to run this event, then you're going to want to make sure that they know what to do in case of an emergency. If a piece of equipment gets wrecked, what do they do? If somebody asks a question that seems a little inappropriate or vulgar, what do they do? What do they say? If somebody runs through the event center buck naked, what do they do? If somebody is screaming at the top of their lungs, if a fire gets started, if someone steals, what do they do? So those are obviously really big crises that you have to take care of, but there's some small ones too that you should keep in mind, as in what to do if they run out, what to do if someone phones in sick, how do they fill up gas in the car, what to do if the car breaks down, what if they get a flat tire. There are all these things that you need to plan ahead for if you're not actually going to the event. Brand ambassadors are so great because they get to go to events for you, but it's also a bit of a risk because they're usually quite young. They're usually quite inexperienced. No offense, brand ambassadors, but this is probably your first job. It was one of my first jobs. And they might not know what to do if the car breaks down. You need to plan ahead so that you can ensure that your team is going to be the most successful at an event, with or without you. Okay, everyone, we're going to go ahead and take a short break from the podcast. But when we come back, I have a list of the top 10 best event planners that you should be looking for inspiration for your events, for inspiration for who you want to network at events, and they're just some really great event planners that take some very pretty photos on Instagram that you should take inspiration from. So I will be right back with more of the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jakewish, and I'll be right back.
Are you looking for a podcast that gives you all of the latest news from the world of finance? Then check out the GSMC Financial News Podcast. We'll delve into the ups and downs of the stock market, changes in the economy, and news from the world of real estate and technology. From breaking news on the New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, or the overseas market, to updates on the bond market, if there's money to be made, we'll cover it on the GSMC Financial News Podcast.
And welcome back to the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jakewish, and before the break, I walked you through the top 5 ways you can be successful at an event you are not hosting. The 5 ways were to understand your resources, promote your sponsors, technology is your best friend, branding, and to create a crisis management plan ahead of time. So now that we are back, now that you have your plan of how to attend an event, how to host an event, and you have all the stats and facts about how great event marketing is, I thought we would take a look at the top 10 best event marketers in the business right now. Obviously, I don't have every single one on this list. There's only 10. This is my personal top 10. But I do think there is something to learn from all of these, and I'm not the only one that thinks so. There's going to be some name dropping in here because some of these are quite big event planners. David Tutoro. David Tutoro is known for hosting events for Elton John to Al Gore. He has a very unique style that a lot of people try to mimic, but he is very known for pulling out one-of-a-kind ideas. If you're looking to pull out a one-of-a-kind idea, look no further than David Tutoro for some creativity and inspiration. Colin Cowley. Colin Cowley is an event planner for, guess who? Oprah. If Oprah trusts somebody, I'm willing to bet you should trust them too, which is also why number 3 is Preston Bailey, who also hosts events for Oprah. Both Colin Cowley and Preston Bailey are both very elegant and sophisticated designers that really emphasize the little things in an event, and they make them really beautiful, and they make them elegant and lifted, to say the least. Manshi Goyal. Goyal has come up with some of P. Diddy's most successful parties. He is really known for coming up with creative themes for events. So if you're looking for a creative theme that is a little thinking outside of the box and isn't your regular Halloween theme or under the sea theme, look no further than Goyal because he has come up with some really one-of-a-kind ideas. Sarah Haywood. She is the author of The Wedding Bible, and I completely understand why. This woman's weddings that she plans are above and beyond spectacular. They are so incredibly detailed-oriented and just overall glamorous. If you look at the book, The Wedding Bible, and then go take a look at her Instagram, you're going to understand the true feeling of envy, because I'm not getting married anytime soon. But just looking at this woman's Instagram, I was like, yep, this is who I want to plan my wedding. I don't know if I'll ever be able to afford her, but it's pretty spectacular, some of the events she has planned. Mindy Wise. She is most known for planning events for Miss Gwen Stefani. And just like Gwen Stefani, these events are very out there and original and a little, I don't want to say grungy because that's the wrong word, but they are clearly parties for a rock star. And there's a sense of fun and entertainment in these parties that are so unique to events, and it's really all in the way that they market these events at the actual event that makes you feel like, oh, I'm a rock star too, just like Gwen Stefani. Randy Lesnick was voted one of the top 10 planners by Ask Men. He is a Nashville-based planner who caters to country music royalty, such as Tim McGraw. He has also planned some of the big events in country music. So if you're looking for a one-of-a-kind experience that has a little bit of a country twang to it, Randy Lesnick is definitely the man to turn to. Number 8, David Beham. David Beham is known for his unique flower designs. So if you're looking to have flowers at your event, don't just have basic flowers. Have these beautiful one-of-a-kind flower designs created by David Beham. Now, obviously, you can't steal his exact designs, but this is a really great example of thinking outside of the box. Okay, we've always had flowers at our events. How can we take that up a notch? How can we increase how we're doing this thing? And that's not just with flowers. What are you doing with balloons? What are you doing with tablecloths? What are you wearing to these events? These are all things that you need to consider in the same way David Beham considers them. Number 9, Sasha Suzo. Sasha Suzo is known for taking a simple idea and running wild with it, i.e. her use of purple and a stone courtyard has been popular in her wedding designs. She is also known for coining the light projections in a room. This is something that a lot of wedding planners and event marketers currently use, but Sarah Suzu sort of coined that idea. Number 10, Joy Garton. He is based in LA and he is known for planning Courtney Cox's baby shower. He's another really great example of taking a simple idea and making it elegant and refined. So all of these event marketers have something in common, and it's something that I really wanted you guys to understand, and it's the reason I listed them off. I know that some of them are more wedding planners, and some of them aren't maybe exactly what you were thinking of when you come to event marketing, but they're all skilled in their fields, and they've all taken something so simple and made it wonderful. And sometimes when you're working with a small budget, especially for events, that's the type of thing you have to think ahead for. So it's very unique to these planners, even though they are celebrity event planners, but it's something that you should consider when planning your next marketing event. All right, everyone, we're going to go ahead and take a short break from the podcast, but when we come back, I'm going to give you the top 7 mistakes that you should avoid when planning a marketing event. So stay tuned for that, because you are listening to the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie, and I'll be right back.
The Golden State Media Concepts Travel Podcast, the show that gives you advice on everything travel. We explore places you've always wanted to go, as well as giving tips for traveling in those places. We'll give you advice on the best sites for travel tips, information, and discounts. Join us as we travel the world, explore cultures, and meet new people. The Golden State Media Concepts Travel Podcast has got you covered. Download the GSMC Travel Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back to the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie, and today's episode has all been about event marketing. We have talked about how to plan a successful marketing event, how to attend a successful marketing event, top 10 event marketers of all time, and now we are going to talk about what type of mistakes you should be trying to avoid when planning the events, when going to the events, or when trying to create a marketing plan for future events. So number 1, incessantly promoting your event. Obviously, you should promote your event, and I am not up here trying to tell you not to promote your event. You've worked hard on it, a lot of your budget's going into it, and you actually want people to show up. But posting about it 5 times a day on Instagram is actually going to make people not want to show up. Posting about it every day on Instagram is going to make people not want to show up, especially if you're just posting that same image every single day of the events at this time at this location. This event is on this time at that location. Mix up your marketing a little bit and maybe have a video element where you have people talking about the event on the video, or maybe you show the location, you show how things are coming together, you show some behind the scenes. If you want to post about it every day, which I'm saying sure, once a day would be enough. Do not post about it more than once a day. Mix up how you're posting about it. Do not just post the same photo every single day. And every now and then intertwine content on your social media pages that has nothing to do with the event. This way you can still keep people engaged who aren't in town for the event or who aren't able to attend the event. Number 2, sending a confusing message. This is something that a lot of people end up doing without even realizing. It's why I told you in one of the ways that you can plan a successful event and attend a successful event is by knowing what your goals and objectives are ahead of time. If you're trying to sell Christmas sweaters, then let that be clear on the invitation. Don't make it sound like it's just a Christmas party because you want to trick people into going. That's going to confuse people. Make it aware that it is an opportunity for people to buy the Christmas sweater. This way you're not sending a confusing message. People aren't going to feel weird about going to the event because they just simply don't understand the event. You're opening the realm of communication and honesty within your event marketing. Number 3, not stating the event goal. This is very similar to sending a confusing message, but a little bit more direct. A lot of people have a lot of different goals set for their event and they try to state all of them at once. Yes, it's a Christmas party. We're selling sweaters and drinks and cocktails and food and socks and pants and mugs. No, if you're selling all of that, then your one goal is that you're selling stuff. It is a shopping adventure. So take all of your goals, take all of your objections, and find one clear message. Number 4, over-promising. This can be a little scary because obviously you want people to go to your event. Obviously you want people to have fun at your event. But don't promise them that it's going to be as fun as Dick Clark's Rockin' New Year's Eve, because nothing's as fun as Dick Clark's Rockin' New Year's Eve party. Make sure you're clear about the intentions, what will be at the event, who will be at the event, and how long the event is. Some people think that an event is going to last all night and that it's going to be a real party, and if you close it at 9, they're going to be disappointed, and it's not going to allow them to come back to the event next year or even to any of your events again. Events really are made so that you can create a connection with your audience and that you can promote your brand in real life. If your brand turns out to be a lie and that you overpromised, people aren't going to build that customer loyalty with you. Number 5, relying solely on your own internal team. This can be really, really dangerous because although you might have the best set of street teamers and brand ambassadors possible, the event might just be too much for them to handle. So make sure that when you're attending an event or you're planning an event, you try to overstaff it, if anything. And I always try to overstaff by at least one person. This way, if someone calls in sick, they're there. But also, don't feel bad about having to bring in someone new, like a professional photographer, a professional social media person. Those are those people's actual jobs. They are good at doing them. So it's okay to hire outside of your sole internal team. Number 6, not marketing to your demographic. If you market to 60 plus years old the entire year, then why would you throw an event for 17-year-olds? This is really the time for you to take a look at your demographics, take a look at who's actually buying your merchandise, and then target this event towards them. If you are selling products to 17-year-olds, make sure the party is fun and the event is fun for 17-year-olds. Don't have wine there. 17-year-olds can't drink wine. And vice versa. If you're targeting the party towards 60 plus years old, maybe find a way to have free transportation to and from the event. Make sure that it's at a reasonable hour. Make sure dinner is served early. Make sure dinner doesn't have anything they might be allergic or sick to at this point. Make sure that you are aware of what your demographic is and market the event towards them. Number 7, ignoring post-event marketing. This is so important, and I've talked about it a few times already, but it really is a huge mistake a lot of people make when they attend an event and when they host an event. The next day is almost as important as the actual day of the event. I know that sounds crazy, but this is how people who weren't at the event understand and get marketed to as to why they should go to the next one. It's also a great way to follow up with people who were at the event, promote your sponsors one more time so that they want to work with you again, and generate those sales numbers that you were working towards at the actual event. So make sure that at the very least you're doing one post on every social media account that says, "Thank you everyone who attended the Christmas sweater party. We hope to see you next time." It can be so simple, it can be so easy, but so many people forget to do it. So promise me right now on this podcast that you are not going to be one of those people. Do you promise? I hope you do. Okay, everyone, that is it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jaquish, and I'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the GSMC Marketing News Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on SoundCloud, Stitcher, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to any podcast app and you'll find all of the shows from the GSMC Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, from business news to weird news, you'll find it all on the GSMC Podcast Network. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.